Hello and welcome to the Business Standard Morning Show. I'm Swapnil Joglekar. Let's take a look at the stories for the day. On Monday, India recorded 3,600 new COVID cases. This is the biggest jump in a day in the last 6 months. While the overall recovery rate is high, the rise in new cases is a cause for concern. So is India staring at another COVID wave in the coming days? And what can be done about it? Tushar Verma brings you the answer.
On 3rd April, India registered 3,637 new cases of COVID-19. On 2nd April, about 3,800 cases were reported, which was the highest increase in a day in the past 6 months. The rising cases of COVID infection come after a long dry spell, when daily cases of infection hovered at less than 500 since December last year. Let's find out how doctors and virologists read the increase in the number of cases.
The most important thing is that we have dropped our guard. We're not using a mask. And that is the cause of the surge that we are seeing. As of today, it is more in the north region, when I'm talking about Delhi NCR and Punjab, because we have hospitals here. We keep getting our feedback on how it is. The positivity rates are in that 15-20%, which has gone up substantially.
Well, the rise in number of cases, if you look at the numbers, we have roughly 3,800 or so cases coming right now per day. Compare that to the population of India of 1.4 billion, it's minuscule. People are worried because we have gone from a low of about 60 odd cases to 3,800 cases. So yes, in terms of percentage, the number is high, but when you start from a very low baseline, it appears very big, but it's not. It's just a minor blip right now.
What may put anxieties around increasing cases of COVID-19 at bay is the recovery rate, which is robust at 98.77%. This is substantiated by the fact that India has vaccinated at least 95 crore citizens, including adults and children aged more than 12 years. The exponential spread of disease in the past 3 years had also led to some form of immunity among the masses as well. These factors, together, made COVID-19 non-threatening in the subcontinent. But what triggered the sudden spike in cases now?
Well, I think one reason is that a new variant has developed, which is better, let's say more infectious than previous variants. And you may be hearing about something called XBB1.1.16. To just break it down, this is a variant that has arisen because of combining of two earlier variants and a few mutations on top of that, which essentially means that it is very good at evading pre-existing immunity that we have built because of vaccination or prior infection. So the number of cases are going up.
India had witnessed devastating COVID-19 waves. While the active caseload today is not as high, it has still crossed the 20,000 mark. At least 7 deaths were reported. So, are there any chances that this increase in cases might turn out to be another COVID-19 wave?
It's unlikely, and there are various reasons to it. I think so. The good part is that India has had a very good penetration of being vaccinated. At least the 2 doses, they have, a majority of the population has got it. Many of us have had COVID earlier, so that also gives us some inherent immunity. Those who have not even suffered from COVID, they have been exposed to the virus, so the body also again has developed some immunity. Based on all this, I think so India is in a much more sweet spot than many other countries.
With increasing cases, many state governments have released guidelines for protection. The Delhi government recently issued an advisory to wear masks, especially during hospital visits. The government of Haryana, too, released an advisory asking healthcare officials to record the travel history of infected people. Do these developments point towards another countrywide COVID protocols, such as social distancing, etc.?
Well, it's now pretty clear based on multiple studies that mask mandates don't work. It doesn't mean that masks don't work. Mask mandate means if the government says everyone, going out must wear a mask. Yes, people will wear a mask, but some will have it hanging by their neck. Others will have the face covered, but the nose open, all kinds. And therefore, mandates don't work. But on an individual basis, if I'm wearing a mask and wearing it properly, it does protect me. And more importantly, if I have a cough and cold and I wear a mask, then it definitely protects other people who are around me.
Although COVID-19 cases are increasing, healthcare experts see nothing to panic since the majority of Indians are vaccinated. However, COVID-appropriate behaviors such as wearing masks when sick and among large crowds are advised. A critical factor is taking the precautionary third dose of vaccine, the rollout of which has been slow for the past few months.
COVID isn't the only thing that is worrying policymakers these days. High inflation has been a problem for the Reserve Bank of India and India's economic planners for some time now. Central banks usually try to battle high inflation by raising the repo rate. But recently, a former deputy governor of the RBI had an unconventional suggestion. Viral Acharya wants India's largest conglomerates dismantled to bring inflation under control. So should India follow his advice? Bashwar Kumar spoke to two experts to find out. Here's what they said.
The Big 5, which are India's biggest conglomerates, have an all-pervasive influence on the lives of Indians, including you. If you've just started enjoying blazing fast 5G, that's courtesy the Reliance Group or Bharti Telecom, by way of Jio and Airtel. From the packet of salt in your grocery basket to the new electric vehicle you're saving the planet with, that's likely to be the Tata Group. The flight you caught last week probably took off from an airport run by the Adani Group. And if you've ever bought any apparel from Forever 21, that's the Aditya Birla Group. You may shrug and say, so what? But Viral Acharya, who was the Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank of India between 2017 and 2019, thinks such a concentration of power is bad for India and, more importantly, bad for your pocket. Fleshed out in a recent paper, Acharya's thesis is that the Big 5 wield immense pricing power across vital sectors and are contributing to elevated inflation. Thus, Acharya, who is a professor of economics at New York University's Stern School, feels that they should be broken up for the sake of fair competition. According to Acharya, Indian consumers do not benefit adequately when input prices fall because the Big 5 control the manufacturing of metals, coke, and refined petroleum products, as well as retail trade and telecommunications. Acharya believes that the rising concentration of corporate power in India could make inflation even more persistent. However, these large conglomerates also have their proponents. They argue that for long, India's actual problem was that its companies were too small. Thus, they could not compete with large foreign firms or emulate their productivity gains. So, should India follow through on Acharya's proposal? Considering that there can be many nuances in any argument for or against the thesis, Business Standard spoke to Shailesh Haribhakti and Naushad Forbes, who have both seen how India Inc. functions from close quarters, to take the debate forward.
These large companies have embedded in them the power to do things at scale, use the right technology, and make goods and services available to India at democratized prices. The decision to structure the way the future should evolve must be left to the boards of these companies under a regulatory framework which is continuously tweaked in a democratic manner again.
Viral Acharya also contends that the Big 5 have grown at the expense of smaller Indian firms. Meanwhile, for his part, Forbes also disagrees with Acharya's overall thesis, albeit with some caveats.
What we need to focus on is the market dominance in particular sectors, whether it's telecoms, whether it's shipping and ports, whether it's steel, whether it's any sector. If you have market dominance and pricing power that comes from that market dominance, then that's what you address through antitrust regulations, not conglomerates themselves. It seems to me that you should look at what provides the conglomerates with their benefit. If it is connections with the government, then address that. Remove the benefit that connections with the government provides.
Another criticism Acharya has aimed at the Big Five is that the government's extremely high tariffs have shielded them from foreign competition. He also suggests that if dismantling such conglomerates isn't an option, the government can instead make it economically unattractive for them to remain so large, unless productivity gains are truly significant.
We've seen big tariff increases in the last 5 years. That's not in India's interest. So if conglomerates have grown because behind tariff barriers, then address the core issue. Address the tariff barriers, don't address the conglomerates. You don't target bigness in itself. So you get productivity gains by really being world competitive. And that's what we should try to do. We should reduce tariffs as the best way of forcing productivity gains on all our firms. We should not leave competitiveness as a choice that firms make for themselves. It has to be forced on them.
While Hari Bhakti feels that Acharya's argument on tariffs is correct in principle, he cautions that certain preconditions will have to be met before lowering them.
Infrastructure availability, the quality of infrastructure at affordable cost, power tariffs which are fair and reasonable and low cost, and access to money at globally competitive price. If we can work towards these in a concerted manner, then I would like to see a time, maybe 3 to 5 years, and we could create a glide path to reducing the tariffs.
Acharya also criticizes the idea of creating national champions, which is considered by many to be the industrial policy being pursued by India. While he blames it for feeding directly into inflation, the idea has also come under attack from various quarters after the Adani Hindenburg saga.
So I don't think we have a national champion strategy, and I don't think we should have a national champion strategy. I think India's future looks much more like Germany than it does like South Korea or Japan. A future where you have thousands of firms that are really successful and stand for Indian industry, not a few firms that stand for Indian industry.
While one can disagree with Acharya's suggestion that the biggest Indian conglomerates should be dismantled, at least one other contention made in his paper will find acceptance across all quarters. Acharya says open dialogue around facts, opportunities and risks will help India become a significant beneficiary of the China Plus One transition that is underway. And one can hardly argue against Acharya when he writes that it would be nice if India can get it right in the coming decade.
The centre and states are upping the ante against the sudden surge in COVID-19 cases across the country. Equity markets, however, have so far been resilient to the developments. But is it too early for investors to lower their guard? Or are there concerns that investors need to be mindful of? Puneet Wadhwa and Nikita Vashisht answer these questions in our next report.
India has seen a steady rise in COVID-19 cases over the past few days. On Monday, the country saw over 3,600 cases of coronavirus, with the active case tally rising to 20,219. The All India positivity rate has risen to 6%. Among individual states, Delhi's positivity rate is over 16%, while Maharashtra's is over 13%. Given the sudden spike in cases, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also held a high-level meeting last month to review the state of preparedness. On their part, market watchers believe the situation is not alarming for now and remains a non-event for Dalal Street.
No, people are not taking it serious. Now we have medicines, we have taken, and the infection doesn't stay for a long time. I don't think these are very serious. No. Even if it becomes uncontrollable, we need to live with it. Previously we never had medicine. Now we have medicine, and government also would act very fast. They have also done few things. Where if you want emergency hospitals like what we had in BKC and other places, it will be again built up because now they are used to many things. So, in no time we can create systems and, we can manage it also. I don't think that is a problem.
Still, analysts caution that the country cannot afford any lockdowns as the GDP growth has moderated significantly. The near-term trend for the markets, they said, would be dependent on the RBI's interest rate decision on April 6 and news flow related to the global banking crisis.
The rising COVID cases is an area of concern, but these are localized spreads of COVID-19 and therefore is unable to cause social and economic disruptions. El Nino conditions emerging by July, August is another concern, but these are early days and it's too early to draw definite conclusions on whether it will impact our agricultural production and the economy. The more serious concern is the high core inflation and the consequent rising interest rates. The MPC is likely to raise policy rates by another 25 basis points in the April 6th policy meet and pause after that. If inflation comes down as the RBI expects, the MPC can consider rate cuts by end 2023. If that happens, that will be positive for the markets. The most important factor influencing equity markets globally will be the inflation and interest rate trends in the mother market US. Therefore, the disinflation trend in US and the Fed's response have to be closely watched.
Clearly, COVID isn't the biggest worry. Given the possible rise in inflation, the interest rate trajectory coupled with the global banking turmoil remains the most significant trigger for the markets. The Monetary Policy Committee of the RBI meets this week. 49 of 62 economists polled by Reuters expect the RBI to raise the repo rate by 25 basis points to a 7-year high of 6.75%. Equity markets are shut today on account of the Mahavir Jayanti holiday.
Recently, ISRO successfully conducted a landing experiment for a reusable launch vehicle or RLV at its Chitradurga facility. The RLV is expected to cut the cost of space missions significantly. But what is an RLV? Raghav Agarwal explains.
On April 2, the Indian Space Research Organisation, ISRO, successfully demonstrated a landing experiment for a reusable launch vehicle, RLV, at its testing range in Chitradurga, Karnataka. It was the second of the 5 tests that are a part of ISRO's efforts to develop RLVs. A reusable launch vehicle is a space shuttle that can travel from low Earth orbit to outer space to deliver payloads and return to Earth for use again. ISRO's first demonstration was conducted successfully in 2016. The parts of an RLV return to Earth intact after a mission and can be recovered and later reflown for another mission. ISRO had first announced the first trial of RLV in 2010, but it was put off due to technical reasons. Another was hinted at in 2015, but it was again grounded. Finally, on May 23, 2016, ISRO sent a winged spacecraft into space. A rocket carrying a payload of 1.75 tons was launched into space in 91.1 seconds, and it reached a height of 56 kilometers. Then the RLV separated from the rocket, climbed to an altitude of 65 kilometers, and then splashed down in the Bay of Bengal. The April 2nd launch was the second such launch. The major advantage of an RLV is cost reduction. The parts of a rocket can be reused, reducing the need to manufacture similar parts for the next mission. Another benefit is that RLVs make rocket parts readily available. After the launch of the first RLV in 2016, then ISRO chairman K. Sivan said that by using RLVs, the cost of the launch could be reduced by nearly 80%. The RLVs are heavier than traditional rockets. This is due to supplementary systems, including landing gear and surplus propellant needed to land the rocket. Moreover, the launcher may need to be refurbished after the landing. It might make the process lengthy and expensive. The US currently leads in RLVs. NASA's Discovery and Atlantis space shuttles were among the most famous RLVs. But the NASA RLVs had two failures over the years. Two of NASA's shuttles, the Challenger in 1986 and Columbia in 2003, crashed. Both crashes killed all 7 crew members aboard. In 2017, SpaceX also launched a reusable launch system in its rocket Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets. In 2020, Rocket Lab, founded in New Zealand but now located in the US, also successfully tested the re-entry of its Electron rocket. Another American company, Virgin Galactic, is also developing a re-entry rocket named Spaceship Two. Reports suggest that China is researching the reusability of its Long March 8 systems. Russia's Roscosmos is working on developing the Soyuz 7 or Amur launch vehicle for a reusable first stage. The European Space Agency also started the development of a prototype reusable first stage launcher, TMS, in 2020.
I'm backed by the nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.
The reusable launch vehicle has also been configured to act as a test bed to evaluate a range of technologies like hypersonic flight and more. That's all for today. Catch the next episode of The Morning Show tomorrow. Thank you for watching.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.